Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brain and Spine Group. Tonight, we're going to continue our neurosurgery journey. And we've got our host here. My name is Zach. We've got Kyle on the right, and then we've got Eden on the left. Tonight, we're going to be hitting a couple important topics. One being very crucial is what do you do in your summer between your first and second and your second and third year while you're trying to pursue neurosurgery? We actually have a pretty awesome range here because I'm a second year, Eden is a first year, and Kyle is a third year. So we actually have all three of those spectrums covered. So we're going to start it off really slow here. And I'm going to let Eden start us off here with kind of telling us just kind of what she's doing since she's a first year.
Sure. Thanks, Zach. So yeah, my name is Immaculate Christie, but I go by Eden. And I just finished my M1 year at Georgetown. So I'm in my summer right now. And yeah, I think this summer has been a balance of busy and relaxing. And I think that's kind of what everyone should strive for. You really don't want to burn yourself out with just like doing just research over the summer. But essentially what is happening right now is I'm involved with like purely remote research with like multiple different institutions. I have a lot of stuff going out with my home institution currently. And I also did apply for a fellowship with CNS. And that was so I have a fellowship, a research fellowship with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're just getting that study done over the summer and hoping to present at CNS this September in DC. I'm trying to think of what other of my other classmates are doing over the summer that want to pursue neurosurgery. I know one particular classmate of mine got like one of those research fellowships through NREF. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so he's been doing that. But it seems like most of my classmates are doing some form of remote research, probably some shadowing. I think at this point, shadowing is kind of like has like limited utility. Just because I shadowed a lot over the M1 year and kind of made those connections at Georgetown. But yeah, I think that could also be a really important tool for like connection building. I think this summer can be utilized for making those connections for, eventually when you do your sub-Is in the future. So I might do a brief observership over the summer here in Phoenix, but that's kind of all up in the air. I'm just trying to have more of a balanced summer, but still try to be productive.
Yeah, you definitely have to kind of decompress after your first semester or first year of medical school. I mean, it's just quite the culture shock.
Yes, for sure. Definitely, I mean, yeah, after the culture shock of M1, but I'm definitely a little more nervous for M2. My journey was a little bit different into med school. I did the SMPs at Georgetown. So I was exempted from a lot of the the main coursework from the M1 year. So I did have like a lighter load per se. But yeah, definitely like excited for M2, but I'm sure you have more insight into that. I am a little nervous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's definitely a good fear to have. I mean, you always got to respect it, but be afraid of it at the same time, or else it's going to swallow you whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with everything she just said. I mean, she nailed it. During my first year's summer, I did a 2-week preceptorship with internal medicine during the day, but since I'm a little bit crazy, which all neurosurgeons are a little bit crazy, so don't let them fool you. I did overnight shadowing during neurosurgery. So I was working like 18 or 19-hour days, but it was definitely worth it.
Wow.
I learned a lot, but as Eden was saying, it's just kind of like we're first years. We don't have that much knowledge. And so we're sitting there in these very complex surgeries, just kind of watching them and just smiling and waving. And
right.
That's about all we can do. I mean, I learned how to scrub in, so that's a pretty important thing to know.
Yeah.
But that's about all I did as far as shadowing was just that 2-week thing. And that was just because it was required through my school. As I kind of decompressed and relaxed a little bit, but I also went to, I think, 3 different research conferences. I went to one on intellectual disabilities and then 2 on neurology type stuff. Kind of just getting my feet wet. I didn't do any presentations during those times, but just kind of like watched. But I've done a couple presentations this summer.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, in conclusion, and Kyle, you can add anything if you'd like, but during your first year, I feel like research is honestly kind of a blessing because not every school allows you to do research at that time because some of them want you to focus that first year completely on school. So that way you can make sure you have a good GPA and this and that, or at least that's how it is at my school. Like they would not allow anyone to do research their first year. You can prove that you're a good enough student to kind of like take on more responsibility. So I joined research like halfway through my first year. My first year summer. And I was doing alligator neurosurgery, which is pretty rare, but it's pretty cool.
Wow.
So I've learned a lot from that. And now that I'm about to transition to my third year, which I'll be going to New York City. So that's quite the change from my small little city in Kirksville, Missouri. We'll see how that big apple treats me. And I'm transitioning away from that alligator research and then moving on to hopefully some stuff that I haven't found out yet. But during my second year summer, all I did was study for boards. And I just took one of my boards. I took the COMLEX, but I have to take the USMLE now in 2 weeks. So stress is still there.
So step 2 for level 2 and step 2?
Step 1 and level 1. I'm a second year. So
got it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So hold on. So you're in Kirksville right now.
Yep. And my rotations start July 22nd. So I scheduled my boards in New York thinking that I'd be up there by now, but the housing market, believe it or not, is pretty insane. So especially whenever I make no money. They look at this kid that has no money and they just want him to expect to live into the most expensive city I can think of. So we're not quite there yet. So I just got back from New York yesterday. Just trying to take it all in.
So I have a question actually. Does your program have a home neurosurgery program?
Mine does not, no.
So if not, can you kind of walk through the steps of like, how you went about getting research?
Sure. So we do not have a home neurosurgery program, but we do have a home neurologist. And I kind of got my research dabbled in with him, allowing me to do a couple case studies just to kind of say that I was doing something. And then once I got those completed, Dr. Young, he is a PhD like professor, but he does our neuro course. So he is a alligator neurosurgeon, but I mean, so he does all kinds of surgery on all kinds of animals, but he kind of allowed me to get into that. So I technically didn't really have a neurosurgery connection at that point, but I've made several connections with myself just because I'm from Springfield, Missouri. So there are, I think, 14 neurosurgeons in this city. So I know most of them just because I worked in the ER. So I kind of use that to my advantage. And Kirksville is 4 hours away from Springfield, so it's not that bad, especially because I get to visit family here anyways. So driving down here and getting to shadow some neurosurgeons that I knew from a past life, if you will. But I would say the best way, especially if you don't have a home neurosurgery program, to get connections is going to conferences and honestly just shooting your shot. I've several times I've just emailed doctors that I've seen, or like on Twitter I've DM'd them and just been like, hey, I'm a second year med student and I'm hungry for more. Is there any way you can get me involved in anything? And most of the time they'll respond. They might say they're busy, but I mean, I've gotten 2 people responded that I have never met in my life, just saying like, absolutely, like whatever you want to do, like, come on. That's how I actually got involved with Dr. Radwanski and the Brain and Spine Group, is I just emailed him one day. I see that you're doing that neurosurgery stuff, so can I just hop in? And he let me in. So make sure that you're not afraid to be risky and send those emails, because there's no wrong in doing it. I mean, the worst I can say is no. You just move on.
That's very true. I feel like if you look at my sent mail from year 1, it's just like more than, I think, like probably like 60% of them just went like cold email unanswered. And it can be honestly a little discouraging at times. I think that with my school being pass fail, a lot of students tried to got involved with research very early. And that was my case too, but still, even then, I felt like a lot of my emails went unanswered. But someone will respond to you, and there are certain ways to phrase what you're asking for and show that you're interested. But I think it kind of eventually works out. I feel like I have some better footing now being in the summer because of how much I emailed in the past. And the key thing truly is persistence.
Oh yeah, for sure. And another thing that kind of a tip that I would say if you're trying to reach out would be, instead of saying, hi, is it okay if I do research with you? Like, maybe come out with an idea yourself. That kind of shows that you're passionate about it and that you're not just trying to free ride on something, but instead asking them, hi, I need a physician to supervise this CSF paper that I'm trying to write. Would you mind maybe meeting with me and seeing if you can kind of give me your information on what you know, and then we can collaborate? Because as students, we don't have the right to just make papers, because we need, people to oversee it, or is it, especially if you're doing a medical paper. So it's kind of hard to, do that kind of stuff whenever you don't have doctors behind you. So that always helped me, was emailing and saying, like, I have this specific paper in mind. Would you like to look it over, or look up the ideas, maybe modify it?
Yeah. I feel like that could be a whole nother episode on itself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's something that's already been talked about, or how to like get involved with research. But yeah, Kyle, I was wondering kind of where you are at your journey, and what you did for summer break.
Yeah, so right now I am on, so I just finished my third year. So the way Cornell does it, our clerkships are January to December. So I finished my last clerkship this past December, took step 2 in January, and we have a 4.5 month like dedicated research block during our third year, which is like research. Like, you're supposed to come up, like, have a project that you like write almost like a mini thesis on and present at the end of the block. So we just finished our project. I was working on a device design project for craniofacial applications, and we presented that 2 weeks ago. So now I'm kind of in this gray zone. So I'm actually going to be taking a year off to get a biomedical engineering degree, which starts in late August. So I kind of have 2.5 months to do what I need to do. But back to so that's where I am now. In terms of my first year, so our school did have a curriculum where you had a summer off, and you could either take it off, like away, or do like a dedicated summer project, which counts as research credit. If you have the option, do the research credit, especially because neurosurgery is so academically focused. And mine was also on a device development project. So in terms of deciding what you're going to do your first year, so if you have the opportunity to work in a lab, I think a dedicated summer is a great place to start, because it is good to have wet lab experience where you're working in that kind of setting. And these dedicated periods where you don't have to worry about having clinical responsibilities or board responsibilities or any really kind of peripheral medicine responsibilities is perfect for that. So I would encourage people, even before the summer starts, to start figuring out from med students and residents which professors are the most amenable to getting med students in the lab, which ones have like labs operating, which ones enjoy taking students under their wing, which ones are in fields that you're particularly interested in at that time. So really start scoping the opportunities you have, and then once you figure that out, you can start your summer. And usually these wet lab opportunities are like you're working like a normal job, so 8 to 9 hours a day, 40 hours a week. But I would also recommend in the rest of that time you have is pick up a couple of not wet lab projects, so clinical projects as well. I think even during your entire educational experience, I think you should have 1 or 2 neurosurgery projects going like cooking at some point of their development.
Mhm.
So I think summers are a great time to get them, you know, the momentum going even faster on those.
Yeah.
So as well as your like wet lab opportunities, I would also get some other side projects going too.
Mm.
And, you know, do your shadowing, they say like make your face recognizable within the department. And this is a great time to do that. So, you know, go to cases, be present, go to grand rounds if they have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. I guess I had a question. So you said that, wet lab experience can be, I mean, I feel like I've gotten very mixed opinions on wet lab experience during med school. So I guess what I want to ask is, would my like undergraduate, I had like 3 years of wet lab experience from undergrad in, neuro research. So does that count, or should people avidly look out for wet lab stuff in med school?
So it does count to like in terms of your like, overall research, catalog.
Yeah.
Those publications still count and everything, especially if they're within neuroscience. But it's not quite as, they don't have the same utility as working directly under a neurosurgeon while you're a med student.
Right.
Like these professors are usually high research output professors, and you can get a lot of hands-on experience with them and build those relationships, because let's be honest, at the end of your medical career, you're going to have to choose somebody to write your letter of rec.
Yeah.
And this person would be a great person to do it with. It's not necessary. Like for me, like mine was device design. So it wasn't necessarily, I was in a classic wet lab. So I had reasons that I could, convince myself that a formal wet lab experience was not necessary in my case.
Yeah.
But, I also think that the summer is such a good time to do that, because it's not like you're dedicating a full year to wet lab time. Right. You're dedicating only 2 months.
Yeah.
You can get that initial experience, do that 2 months. If it's for you, good. Yeah. You can do it, more. If it's not for you, you can do more, like clinical research, but at least we have this 2 month cap where it's not like you're going to be tied into it for a long time.
Yeah. I kind of have some mixed experience with getting involved with wet lab stuff during medical school. So it was kind of on the table for a while that I would do wet lab research during the summer. And I was involved, and I was in contact with 2 different PIs. One of them was a neurosurgeon. Another one was MD, not neurosurgeon. But I think it's really important to get involved in a lab, or make it very clear on what you want out of your summer with the PI. Like I think the PI should be on the same page as you, that, you have some kind of project that's your own to finish. And you have something kind of like tangible by the end of summer. And then, so that was one lab for me. And that ended up not working out just because their lab was new. It was too new. And it's something that I could potentially get involved with like later down the road. And then another lab was, you most likely will not have anything concrete by the end of the summer. And you might be on a paper to next year. So I think it's truly definitely do what, you're actually interested in. I chose not to do the latter lab for other reasons, but I think my time is just spent better when I'm doing more clinical stuff for now. I'm thinking of a research year potentially down the line where I would get more involved with wet lab stuff, but again, that's like another topic down the line.
Well, you made some really good points, and that, scoping out early and figuring out are these people med student friendly, definitely make sure that people have gone through your position and had good outcomes, you know?
Agreed.
You want to make sure that they're actually going to get you on papers, and they're actually going to get you involved in the mindset of academic neurosurgery as opposed to cleaning things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like we know how to use soap. Like you're not going to be gaining a lot of skills from that.
Yeah.
But and also I agree. Like, I mean, you're talking to somebody who didn't do formal wet lab stuff. So like I do think there's a time and a place to not do wet lab.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, clinical research, like if that's something that you can be passionate about, and you know, like you have broader goals that you want to fulfill within clinical research,
yeah,
then that's your thing. That's your area. And you know, honestly, you can get higher volume with that. And
yeah,
just do what you want, you need, that you like.
Yes. I think I also picked clinical research because it really allows me to understand more of, like, do more literature searches and kind of learn the language a little bit more. Because definitely if I was, if I were to be in the lab for 8 hours a day, 7 days out of the week, maybe 5, but yeah, I know I would just be sitting there cutting brains, staining, kind of doing that over and over again. I think there's definitely, for me personally, I saw a greater benefit to do clinical research because it definitely gives you way more exposure to like learning about more of, for example, I'm more interested in vascular neurosurgery. So definitely reading more literature to get the project done has been really beneficial.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've just been like staring for a while. I just letting you guys go at it. Another thing that I did, I'm sure both of your colleges have organizations that you can join, like whatever, like anesthesia club and neuro club. So my school didn't have a neurosurgery club, so I started one. And so what we did was we implemented a weekly case report, like where we would go over it as a group. And so we were kind of learning our, you know, like neuroterminology by reading papers and kind of digesting them with clinical faculty present. So like that was another thing. Like, so all I'm saying is I'm just trying to add in a little bit to your conversation here by saying that like there's multiple ways to get involved with trying to figure out that terminology too, especially if you aren't as lucky to get a clinical like research project going. You can try to make one yourself. So that's kind of what I was doing. Since we don't have a home neurosurgery program, I mean, I was sitting there just trying to figure out what I could do. So we were Zooming in neurosurgeons and letting them read us a paper that maybe they did or that we sent them to let them kind of digest it with us. And then they would just kind of dissect the paper and allow us to ask questions. And I mean, yeah, we're not technically doing research, but we're learning about it. And it's still kind of giving us that same taste of like learning. I mean, it's passive learning, so you might as well just do it. I don't know. I think that was pretty helpful because I think my group that was in my club with me, like really enjoyed that too, which is kind of like hearing other perspectives and neurosurgeons from all over the place. So I think that was something that we kind of, I did pretty well with, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Like exposure is exposure. And you're gaining like way more new skills, being able to like dissect literature, analyzing literature in the presence of like faculty, and they give input. And no, I think journal clubs, being able to carry out journal clubs through like neurosurgery interest groups have been incredibly helpful. And actually, I think I only got involved with that through brain and spine group. Actually, that was my first ever journal club I presented in, and then I was like, we should do this with the neurosurgery group at our school. And it's been pretty nice. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. My first time in there was brain and spine group too, doing that journal club. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Join brain and spine group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please. But yeah, Zach, that's really interesting. Like, and I think like because you don't have the other responsibilities of having to do like hospital stuff, or you have a quiz coming up in 4 days, you can focus on having these like extracurricular activities that are like, and a lot of institutions don't exist yet. So I think it's really cool that y'all got it going.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the most important step.
I just figured like it's not fair that like the only group that didn't have like a specialty group was the one I wanted to do. So I was like, I just emailed the school. I was like, hey, is it cool if I start a group? And he was like, as long as you get 8 members, that'll sign up. And so before school even started, I mean, this was like before my first year, I sent in the group chat and they're always like, oh my gosh, this is going to be one of those guys. But I was like, does anybody want to join my club that we haven't even moved to Kirksville yet? But it turned out I'm sure some people kind of snubbed their nose at me, but it worked out fine. I mean, a lot of people were interested, and I think 4 or 5 people ended up making other groups too. So I wasn't the only one that sounded like too hungry for. It was just crazy because I mean, I moved up there like a month early because I was just trying to figure out the area, and I went to the hospital and I went to like every floor and was trying to find doctors that would accept me to like do case presentations. And they're like, you need to get into school first. You don't even know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
You need to sign your lease first.
Do you even live here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was just one of those kids that I knew that we didn't have a home neurosurgery program, and I'm just so determined to hope my dreams go. So I just decided to just try anything I could do.
Right. I mean, being aggressive at the start is, I mean, wow. Like, Zach, that's truly inspirational, honestly. I mean, I feel like I was trying to be as proactive as I could. I mean, my circumstances were a little different with a set program already, but I think I was kind of, like I said earlier, that I had like more time essentially than the average med student due to being exempt from certain classes. I was just very paranoid that I wasn't like doing enough at the moment. I should be doing more research, but yeah, I would say try to get involved early. Be persistent, be aggressive, don't count yourself out of, don't count yourself out before they count you out, right?
For sure.
And yeah, again, I guess that's how like summer has worked out.
And that brings up a really good point that like you said you kind of feel like you weren't doing enough, and while we're just so hard on ourselves because we want to do something so competitive that it's seems like you're always trying to stress yourself out because gosh, I only have 9 publications, I need 13 right now. Like sometimes it's okay to just breathe and like realize that you're literally in school. So if you can't get through school, like you just need to breathe a little bit and realize that like everyone is also going through school. So like you're doing a lot as it is, and so like we need to just be a little easier on ourselves, but it's just so hard to say because gosh, I need things going at all times. I'm the exact same way, but I mean, it's just like to reflect on yourself sometimes, being like, it's okay that I'm not doing something right now because I have an exam in 3 days, so I can just breathe, pass my exam, and kind of, like take a step back and realize that like it's still going to be there. So for those people listening that are like, oh my gosh, I don't have all of these things that we're talking about, like it's completely okay. And it'll all work out.
Yep. Oh yeah. I know people that, when I was doing an observership here at Phoenix, I met some people that like decided on neurosurgery way later down the road. And they're probably taking I think they're probably on their 2nd gap year with like their research year here. So there's definitely like so many different ways to get to where you're going, I guess. Yeah, Kyle, anything to add to that?
I mean, yeah, like it's just have fun with it. Like I think I really hit the ground running going into first year. Like I really was making an effort to get involved.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing it, like my mindset wasn't, I need these amounts of publications. My mindset was, I'm going to get it as involved as I can because it's kind of exciting. I have no medical experience, and now I get to do neurosurgery things. Like that's very cool. So like, just don't think of it as it's like, if I don't hit this exact number, I will not succeed. Just do your best. And usually your best is very, very good. Like you'll be fine. Just enjoy it. And like I've done this speech 1,000 times or talk about how awesome it, like how beneficial it can be to maximize your opportunities early, just because, like, you know, if you do early research, that could be early publications, which can be early research presentation at conferences, which could be getting to meet attendings and residents early. And then you have those relationships that are longitudinal. Like there's so many benefits to having, like, doing research projects and, you know, doing them well, that like that's really how you get these long-term relationships that are just gonna like compound over your 4 years or 5 years.
Yep. Some of the best relationships I made have been at conferences that I didn't even know I was going to be at. And I just shot in the dark and I put my abstract out there and then get accepted. And you're like, wow, like that's awesome. And then you get there and then you just randomly meet people that will come up and look at your posters and be like, wow, that's really cool. And then you talk and then all of a sudden they're like your new med school mom or dad, and they just want to like help you in any way they can. I mean, especially because I don't have a home program. Like so many times I've reached out to those people and be like, hey, do you know a neurosurgeon in Connecticut? Because like I'm going there for a week and like I would love to get involved there. And like all of a sudden,
that's a good idea.
There we go. I mean, that's just how it is. You reach out to all your doctors that you meet. I mean, you met them for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason. And like you happen to be there the same day they were, and then they met you, and all of a sudden they can help you down the road in any way you need to. I've reached out to like doctors that I've met at conferences, and they've gotten me connections that I would have no way of getting without them. So that's a big tip, I would say.
And that's because you like forced yourself to get out there. And
you can't be a homebody all the time. You've got to get out there sometimes and experience the world. You can't study all the time. It's just not fun.
And I think even with like a lot of MD schools going like pass fail, certain, you know, there are only a couple kind of objective metrics almost. It's FaceTime is so important with attendings, residents, because they instantly, like, I think familiarity goes such a long way in this field. I mean, that's kind of the sense that I've gotten. And like Kyle said, you know, getting involved really early and how it compounds over time. That's so true. Like you do one thing well, and you're on top of it. You're that med student that's really on top of their research. Like they'll just come back to you and ask if you want to do more research. You want to help on this paper, and then you'll get on this paper. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. I'm still kind of very much in my couple of first projects, working through them. But yeah, I'm hoping. That's what I'm hopeful for.
Well, I mean, like, what else could you ask for? I mean, you just said projects year one.
Yeah,
that's very fine. Like that's all you could ask for. And like every one of these projects, plural. Yeah. Listen to yourself. They're gonna like have opportunities that are just gonna compound in the future. Like you're doing everything you need to be doing.
Definitely. Right. Being punctual is just so important. And like you said, I mean, it comes back to, wow, this guy got his stuff done exactly when I asked, so I'm going to ask him to do something else. That's such an important skill to acquire if you don't have it already.
Yes. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's any other questions I have, just because you guys have more experience than I do.
Well, if anybody has any questions in the chat too, if anybody who's watching live, you know, throw one in the chat and we can answer that too.
Yeah, I will say, I weirdly enough, I got a tip at a conference that, like, if you're on your rotations, so Eden, this doesn't technically apply to you, but it will next year. So whenever you go to rotations, they told me if you're interested in a certain specialty, you can go and talk to the attendings and ask them to put you on call on the weekends. And so I went there and visited one of the hospitals in the area of my rotations and said, like, hi, I'm Zach, and I want to do this. So would you mind putting me on your call for 2 or 3 weekends out of the week or out of the month? And they said, yeah, like, absolutely. And so now, like, of course I still have to go and give them my number and stuff, but they're going to call me and put me on, like, just cases that they get throughout the weekend. And then that's just passive. Like, if it happens, it happens. And so, like, I get to be there. So, I mean, But like I said, I'm very good at reaching out to people, and just I really want to maximize my time because we only get 4 years, so you got to make yourself shine as good as you can. And like I think that having that, and especially because neurosurgery isn't a core rotation for most schools, I don't think any schools, then you can definitely try and get them to call you, and like that's huge because you get to, like Kyle was saying, like having your face memorized at any department is huge, because then they're gonna be like, oh hey Zach, like it's good to see you this weekend. Like that'll happen 2 years from now. Like it's gonna be very much a blessing that you did that and like put that time, the face time in, because they're gonna reach out to you and want you to scrub in on cases and this and that, and they might end up being your letter of rec. You just never know. So respecting everybody and trying to get into their department as much as possible is huge.
So are you saying that you did this, you tried to be on call for the neurosurgery service when you were going in for another specialty rotation?
Oh, no. So sorry. I kind of like butchered the first part of my story. I was at a conference and I happened to meet one of the doctors that is the head of the neurosurgery department, like at one of the hospitals near my rotation site. So he was like, I want you to tell them that I sent you, like to go up there and just say, hi, I'm Zach. Can I put you on, or can I put myself on your weekend call? And since I'm not up there yet, I can't quite do that. But it was all because I was at a conference and it was the most random thing ever. But I was talking to someone and they were like, you know what? I think I know a neurosurgeon here. And I was like, no way. And so like, he literally like grabbed my shirt tail and just carried me over to this neurosurgeon. And I was like shaking, and he was like, where are you going to rotations? And I was like, actually like right down the road. And he was like, no way. Like I'm the head of the neurosurgery there. So that was just one of those things. Like getting to conferences is huge. And so I would have never even thought to have done that. So I guess anybody listening, like going out there and just saying like, hey, I want to do this. And since my rotations are during the week, like I would do anything to be in here, like Saturdays or Sundays. Like if you get any cases, can you please call me? And that worked out. So, I mean, obviously I'm not doing it quite yet because I'm not up there, but once I get up there, I'm hoping that it'll still work out.
Let's just name this episode with like tips from Zach. Like this is I would have never thought to do that, I guess.
It makes you really think whenever you don't have a home neurosurgery program. You got to get creative.
Yes. You really have exactly.
That's some of the best friends to have is people who don't have home neurosurgeons, because they know the tricks.
Yep.
I mean, does this stuff keep you up at night? You're like, how am I going to make the next
Yep, I sleep like 30 minutes a week just because I'm sitting there grinding out ways to get better. Just playing.
Salute to that.
Wow, awesome. I think that's kind of all I have to say about maximizing my summer break.
Yeah, hopefully we answered everyone's thoughts that they had but didn't type out because they didn't know they had those thoughts. So, Kyle, you got anything else to add?
No, I think, in closing, based summer, don't stress yourself out too much. You're going to be fine. Plan ahead of time if you can. Try to get a lab if you want. If there's better clinical experiences, do that. In reality, just do your best. Get involved in research. Do so. You'll be fine. We got this.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Just relax and decompress, but at the same time, if you're feeling kind of like you want to do something, like getting some shadowing, getting in some projects, it's all going to work out just fine.
Yeah. If shadowing more helps you sleep at night, I guess shadow more, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. This is the Neurosurgery Journey, and we are closing out. Thank you all for tuning in.